Good evening, everybody. I am joined by Cooper. This is the official start of Week 8, Episode 15. Let's get this show started, why don't we?
Agility from the champion. Oh, deep six! That could be it. Delivers this deep six.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening, Cooper. How you doing?
Styling and profiling.
There was a big woo tonight. We will get to that's for sure.
Yes, I loved it.
Hey, listen, I must say, we've had a pretty decent weekend of wrestling.
We have, yeah, and I will say, just to be the first Raw of the Bruce Pritchard era or the new unified writing era, it went a lot better than I was anticipating. We've got some good setups for some storylines coming down the pipe, and I think Raw is actually in a pretty good position for the first time in a long time. I know Paul was, everybody revered him as the savior of the show with some of the talent he was pushing, but with what I've seen tonight, we've got a good thing going right now, or we potentially have. I want to put it that way. They obviously have the propensity to destroy things as soon as they get started, but with what we saw tonight and what we're going to discuss, I've got some hope on the road to SummerSlam, and I know we got Extreme Rules as our first stop next month, but we've got a couple of good months that we can build right now and get us going.
Yeah, today was a very good Raw. I think it leveled up from the already good string of Raws that we've had for the past couple of months.
Right.
And it leveled up a little bit. And the reason why I say that is because there was never a dull moment from what I've noticed tonight.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of moving parts. I wasn't on my phone as much.
Right.
I really haven't been on my phone too much lately during a Raw. I've never really been bored at all. But tonight was a good Raw. It exceeded my expectations. The last 2 days exceeded my expectations. I mean, starting with Friday, we had that 40-minute match with AJ Styles and Daniel Bryan for the Intercontinental title finals,
Exactly.
which AJ Styles came out to win. But that was an instant classic, potential match of the year for WWE, followed by a pay-per-view, which I had very low expectations of. And they delivered last night. There was
the greatest wrestling match of all time.
Should have never been dubbed that by any means, but that was a great match. And then tonight, we were thinking. Listen, this is one night in the books post Paul Heyman era. This is just one night. Let's just take tonight as a win, and hopefully it can only get better. But tonight we had a very good Raw under the Bruce Pritchard umbrella. I didn't see a downward spiral by any means, quite the opposite. Very good show, very entertaining, always something happening. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. From the very top and then just working through the night itself, some interesting developments, some interesting people that we saw. I'll expound upon that here in a little bit as we go through the night. Some good build to what could happen in the future. Character developments and reverting back to prior characters, which I'm really excited to see. The return of a legend tonight who became a catalyst for setting one of these in the future. I know it's all kind of vague right now, but we'll talk about that as we go. But
not to mention, we got 2 championship matches tonight.
We did, yes, and one of them one of them kind of came out of nowhere, and it actually kind of worked out pretty decently. I was very surprised by it, and a divorce, thank God. More on that later.
Alrighty. So we're going to start off the show right away. This show is a typical Monday night show of bookends. The storyline that they started Raw with is the storyline that they ended Raw with. The first segment, we have a Randy Orton entrance. Tom Phillips during the Randy Orton entrance confirms that Edge is out. We think it's going to be about 6 to 8 months with the tricep tear. Backlash, even though it was on yesterday, it was taped earlier in the week, so the surgery already happened days ago. Yeah. So basically, Edge is in recovery now, and Edge is out of the picture. I think we're going to get a return match there. They hinted at that. Edge versus Randy Orton is absolutely happening, pending the health of not just Edge, but Randy Orton too as well. But I could expect that match to happen at WrestleMania, probably. I think that would be a good time frame. But we won't go too ahead of ourselves. But that's basically what was hinted at. Christian coming to the defense of Edge, sticking up for Randy Orton and defending his honor for the things that was not only done to him with the punt in the head and just the verbal tirade against Edge. Christian coming to his defense, confronting Randy Orton in a ring. Randy Orton accuses Christian of being jealous. Randy says to Christian that he knows what Christian wants, and that is one more match. So they're setting up something here. I'm thinking in my head, maybe for Extreme Rules or SummerSlam, somewhere down the road. But no, we see a challenge from Randy Orton to an unsanctioned match as a loophole, a way around for Christian to fight tonight because he is not medically cleared. But Randy Orton says, you know what, there's a way around it. Fight an unsanctioned match, and that's a way around it that you can fight tonight.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts on this segment?
I was kind of questioning why they brought or decided to use Christian for this. I get it. That's his childhood friend. They were WrestleMania 6 together and everything. They've been playing that up. The boys from Toronto. I know we'll talk about it later since it was the bookend, like you said, and closing out the show. But when it played out at the end, things started making a little bit more sense. Not completely. I don't think they wanted to blow the doors off of it completely and give Randy time to develop what's going on with him. And then everything else that happened with that match, if you will. It was very puzzling why they did that because, Christian, he's still in shape, but he hasn't wrestled in forever. If he's not medically cleared to compete, why are they doing this? So kind of starting the show out, it left a bad feeling for me for the rest of the show. Like, what in God's name is Bruce doing right now? And why is Vince going along with it?
And you know what? It something was a little bit fishy to me that the main event was starting around 10:52, 10:53 when I looked at my clock. So that was like, okay, something's going on. But we will definitely get to that. But moving on, I mean, hey, listen, they were building up the Christian Randy Orton match the whole entire night. Yep. With people, Big Show confronting him, encouraging him, like, you know what you got to do. And then you see Ric Flair throughout the night talking to Christian to stand down, which is a key part of the main event later on, which we'll get into. But first off, let's get to our first match, Kevin Owens versus Angel Garza. Pretty good match here. I was excited. A little shenanigans going on. KO gets the win with the stunner. Garza distracted by Andrade being on the outside. So now there's a little tension. There's some tension brewing between Andrade and Garza and Selena Vega. Vega comes in the ring afterward and addresses them both in the ring, saying that they need to work with each other, not against each other. What did you think of this match and just the storyline going on between Garza and Andrade and Selena Vega?
Good match, physical. Like I've said before on a podcast, Kevin knows how to deliver. Kevin can work with anybody and make anybody look good. Not downplaying Garza whatsoever. The guy's great. I've seen his other matches in the ring, but that's just Kevin Owens. You tell him to go out there and fight a stuffed animal, and he'll give you 15 minutes of a hell of a match and sell it like nobody's business. But especially during the match when Andrade's out there, and even before the match, let's go back there. He's like, "Oh, Kevin Owens, know what happened. I got faith in you, but if you lose, how can you live with yourself?" And just kind of verbally slapping him in the face, if you will. It's like, it's okay if you lose, but I mean, you kind of suck if you do, buddy. So I mean, it's just a little bit more of a rift, and then Andrade's out there during the match, just kind of not coaching him, but he's that head football coach, high school football coach that nobody likes, and it's just trying to push him along, and then everything happens. Kevin gets the win with the stunner, and then you got that ascension right there, and Zelina's trying to come down there and try to be the mouthpiece for the stable. I don't know which way they'll go with it. Especially from Zelina's standpoint, who she'll end up siding with, because you see her with Andrade, that's her original go-to and her original client. But she's been with Garza quite a bit over the number of weeks that the stable was together. So if it boils down to a match between those two, whether it's at Extreme Rules or SummerSlam, and I use those two because there's no way you could drag this out much longer than that. Those two finally face off, and Zelina has to make the decision of who is she going to side with for it. So she's trying to play the middle ground right now, but she's going to have to make her own decision of who she's going to side with and be the mouthpiece of that client.
I was listening to another wrestling podcast. They did their post show last night, the same time we did, and they were saying that quite possibly this could be built into a fatal 4-way for the U.S. title, come maybe around Extreme Rules or SummerSlam, which I never even thought about, which could very well happen. And it makes sense, something for Kevin Owens to do, and then Apollo to defend the title. So, but yeah. But moving on to what you were saying, I don't think it's anywhere near time to turn Garza. I want to see more heel out of him than when it comes time to turn him face. Mm-hmm. He would be a big star by then. I think Andrade, I would probably rather see him get the face turn. I'd rather see him turn face just to see something new out of him. We don't need to see anything new out of Garza. I think, if anything, we need to see something new out of Andrade.
Yeah, because I mean, even back since the NXT days, he's always been the heel, and trying to think of him as a face, I'm curious to see how he would play that out and how he would approach it.
Just got news. WWE, someone in developmental tested positive for coronavirus. Yeah, so they are going to have to be very, very careful, especially with letting people in the arena and the amount of people. I'm surprised this didn't happen sooner. In all honesty, as much as I hate to say it, but yeah. So we will have to see. I mean, honestly. Angel Garza, he's going to be a big star. You know what? You could also try to get some more mileage out of Andrade to maybe include him on some long-term booking for another match with Drew McIntyre. Yep. If you want to keep the belt on fresh faces, I think that would be a way to go. But there's a lot of options of where you can go here. Hey, listen, maybe they don't even split up. I think that this just might be, growing pains. Who knows? They may even start coexisting after Raw and challenge for the tag titles.
Some new blood on Raw.
Why not? WWE is a tag team.
Yeah,
they're somewhat of a stable. So we'll have to see, what happens there. There are definitely a couple avenues, and I guarantee one of what we just mentioned is going to happen, and you heard it here first on the Deep Six Pro Wrestling Podcast. Boom. To whomever is watching and will be listening to this week. Moving on. Bobby Lashley and MVP in the ring, interrupted by Lana tonight. Basically, Bobby Lashley and MVP are venting about their loss, how they were cheated out of their first title defense and first title match challenge, the opportunity, first time in 13 years. And they were going off and blaming Lana, how she ruined the title match. After they, so Lana was interrupted them, and Lana comes in the ring, and that's where the interaction began with Bobby Lashley, MVP, and Lana. All three of them in the ring are playing the blame game, as we expected. And after a couple minutes of them going back and forth, Lashley decides to request a divorce.
Hallelujah. 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 Sorry, I had to get that out.
And you know what? You know what's interesting?
What's that?
We didn't see Lana for the rest of the night.
Nope.
Which we'll get into later, but we did not see her for the rest of the night. That was it. We saw one little promo with Natalya later on, because Natalya was getting on herself in another match we'll discuss really quick. She was venting, and Lana comes and interrupts Natalya and saying, "Yo, I'm in the same boat too. I just got divorced." So I'm not too sure where this is going. I suspect, and we've talked about it for a couple weeks now, that Lana is probably on her way out and headed to AEW or wherever Rusev is going to end up. I think Rusev ends up in AEW, and naturally, Lana, being the wife of Rusev, who now goes by Miro, will both be in AEW. I think that's how it's going to happen. I don't think Lana has much time left on her contract, and I think this is the way they write her off TV. What do you think?
She's needed to be gone.
We haven't. She had. I got to defend her for 1 second. Sorry to interrupt, but she cut a pretty good promo tonight in the ring with Lana and MVP. I felt like she was herself. And I'm like, this is actually the best I've heard Lana on the mic, even though my intelligence was insulted for quite a few years with that accent that she had. And now all of a sudden she's English. But anyhow, she did pretty good on the mic. What did you think of that?
Well, a blind squirrel finds a nut every once in a while anyways. So, I mean, it was bound to happen at some point. But still, that doesn't forgive all of the other screw-ups and terrible promos and just overall lack of talent she's brought to the table over the last 5 years. You know, trying to be a Russian and trying to be a wrestler and the dancing superstar. I
didn't like that.
No, it was annoying.
I think her best role was the early first 1 or 2 years. Her role with managing Rusev,
being the Russian Federation.
Yeah.
I mean,
Rusev, who should have gotten that win at WrestleMania, you would have made an instant star right there.
When he rolled in on the tank.
Yeah, that was a good entrance.
Yeah.
I should have been at that WrestleMania. Darn it. Why did I miss that WrestleMania?
That was 31, wasn't it?
That's 31. California. I mean, 31 was kind of the best WrestleMania out of the last, I don't know, maybe 10 years or so. I'm not sure, but it's the best one in recent memory.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Probably since, 25 maybe?
I don't give 25 much credit. That was just a one-match show with Undertaker, Shawn Michaels. Maybe 24 in Orlando, with Flair and Shawn Michaels retirement match, Edge and Undertaker main event, and just that whole card was pretty much solid.
Gotcha.
But that was 31 when Rusev rolled in, and I should have been there, but I decided to do a baseball trip in between. I went to all 5 California stadiums.
Oh, hate to see that happen.
And the funny thing was that was my first time in California doing a baseball, and that was 2 months after WrestleMania.
Ouch.
So listen, it is what it is. Who would have known it was going to be a good show?
Oh yeah, but it's that a very small window, and then just a downhill slide from there for her career. So it's time to see her out the door. Future endeavor. Thanks for everything. Let Lashley find the light. And with MVP at his side being his mouthpiece right now, he's got the niche he needs right now. So just kind of let that be, kind of let them do their thing. Lashley just needs to stop having the revolving door right now of people he's working with.
For now, yes, I agree. For now, I mean, Lashley has been, booked pretty good, but that's
Yeah.
only for the last month. I think if he's booked the same way the next couple months and close to a main event spot, I think people like Jay will appreciate him a little bit better than he
Good
does.
luck with that.
Good luck with that. I know, right? But yeah. So here's another idea. Does Lana become a surprise manager for Drew McIntyre in maybe an upcoming championship match?
Please no.
between Lashley
Please
and
no.
Drew?
No.
Okay.
Drew himself can work the mic and he can work the ring. Don't touch something that's not broken. And Drew is.
It was just an idea, but WWE would do something like that, and they have done something like that.
Do not speak this into existence.
I hey, listen,
Please.
This is why I'm not a booker.
That's not the good stuff, Wayne.
Do we even talk about the Viking Raiders and Street Profits tonight?
You mean continuing the cluster that was last night, basically?
Yeah.
What more is there to say except why?
I think the whole purpose of this is to build up Tozawa and that big ninja to kind of get him introduced into the WWE. I don't know who this guy is.
Who is this big slag? Like,
I can find out who it was. What another podcast was talking about it, and Living the Gimmick actually they're talking about it last night. I don't know anything about him. I would like to Google him, YouTube, and see what we're getting, so I can have a better idea of where WWE might be going with this. But This guy is huge, 7 foot. We haven't seen a guy this big in a bit. And I think he bigger than Big Show, bigger than Braun Strowman.
Yeah, because he's about 2 feet taller than Tozawa. It's little 5'1" self.
Tozawa barely came past his waistline.
Yeah.
Well, squash match. We got Viking Raiders and Street Profits squaring off against the Ninjas, and then we have Tozawa on the outside, who is on the ring apron, but he never tags into the match, so we never see him in a match. This match ended quick. It was a joke, but they did all that to then introduce this big ninja into the ring, and then you see Viking Raiders and Street Profits with the team huddle. They have no clue what to do, and then as soon as they break, they're about ready, and then Big Show comes out. And then you see the Ninjas clear the ring. They're all gone. The Big Show takes out each and every single one of them. And then the Ninja and Tozawa, they go away. So they wisely walk away because at that point, they were outnumbered. So we're not even going to discuss more about this
Moving on.
right now. Yeah, definitely moving on. I'm interested to see what we get out of that big guy in upcoming weeks. We'll see what happens, and I guess in between now and then I got to do my research on that guy to kind of see where we're getting. But anybody who's watching, feel free to give us a comment on a YouTube page as you're watching the video. You could drop comments. We would like to hear what you think, and we'd love to interact with you guys. And feel free, if you're not subscribed, give us a subscribe. So this way you'll get the alerts of all the post shows that we do and our special shows of predictions and post pay-per-view shows. So only the YouTube subscribers will get that. And also we are available on iTunes, Spotify, and Google Play twice a week. So make sure you subscribe to those too. If you can't watch for an hour, you'll have it on your listening device. Moving on. Seems like Dominic is now the focal point of Rey Mysterio and Seth Rollins feud.
I was feeling this.
This was pretty good. And you know what? It was fresh.
It was. Yeah. And, Seth out in the ring by himself. He's down on his knees. And he went back to David Koresh a little bit, talking about his sacrifice that he was needing. And Dominic is that one that he needs for it, basically. And then you just see him jump in the ring, and he just clubs Seth like he basically was trying to take out Big Show. if you will. And then Dominic flowed like he had been doing this for a while. He didn't have any botches, nothing looked sloppy. He got him out of the ring, spun him around, threw him into those stairs perfectly. And then whenever Theory and Murphy came out,
Theory missed. Tried to sweep his legs.
Yep.
And then Buddy tried to clothesline him. He ducked that.
Yeah, and he did. Or when Dominic was on the outside of the ring, he jumped off the apron and over. I can't remember if it was Theory or Murphy, and then just his antics and getting out of the ring, and then getting into the stands behind the glass, and just taunting him. That I don't know if he had time to really practice that or work that spot, but the kid moved like had done something like that on TV before.
He has been training, to my understanding, for I would say probably about 2 or 3 years.
Oh yeah,
and not to mention the amount of years that potentially his dad was teaching him on the side.
Yeah, he moved better than some NXT stars would, and
Dominic is looked a little grown up over the past year or two.
Yeah, no, the kid is he looks like he's 6 feet tall compared to his dad.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's looking down on his dad for sure.
Oh, yeah. But I'm curious to see once you get him in a ring and instead of working a promo, working an actual match, just see how much green is still in him. So do they throw him straight in with Seth right to the fire, one of the best wrestlers in the company right now?
I think a couple things are going to happen. There's a possibility that Seth Rollins could eventually take Dominic under his wing, and that would be considered a heel turn. Dominic would be turning on his dad. This way, you have a mouthpiece that's always there. It's believable that Seth Rollins and the other disciples are kind of help raising up this young man to be something bigger later on. It fits so perfectly in this storyline.
Yeah.
Then they can go another route.
Yeah,
Rey Mysterio can be his mouthpiece. They can do a tag team together because I know Rey Mysterio is gonna work with Dominic before Rey Mysterio retires. So it could be on the same side or on opposite sides.
And Ray's got gas left in the tank. Ray's not washed up and beat up like they're playing him out on TV right now. He's got years left in him.
Surprisingly, he does, and he's in his mid-40s.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like I can't he looks like he can go for a few more years.
And that's the thing, like Latinos, I don't know what it is, but the Latinos and Japanese wrestlers, because if you look at Liger, those guys can go into their 50s and still move like it's nothing.
Hey, listen, you guys heard it first. Dominic Mysterio is going to be the one to retire his dad. That is happening.
Oh,
bold prediction. I don't know when. It could be a year from now. It could be 2 years from now. Yeah. But Dominic and his dad will be working together in the storyline. And why not have the son retiring his dad?
True.
That never happened.
That's about right. I know of. No, I can't think of anyone retiring their dad, but that I would have to see I don't know if the heel turn would work for that because that's kind of a tugging at the heartstring storyline right there. Yeah.
But yeah, short-term booking wise, I think Rey Mysterio will could very well join the Disciples and do a turn there as well. I can absolutely see that happening. Yeah. I'm thinking, let's just say Seth versus Rey Mysterio SummerSlam and Dominic costs Rey the match.
I can see that. I like it.
Moving on. We got Natalya and Liv Morgan versus the Iconics. Won't talk too much about the match, but the Iconics get the win. We haven't seen Liv Morgan in about 4 or 5 weeks.
Pretty much, yeah.
And you know what? And I don't know what the deal was, but I feel like she lost steam. As Iconics got the win on Liv Morgan, they got the pinfall.
Yeah, that I don't know the purpose of that match.
This is why the women's division's hurting.
Oh yeah, yeah. I know we'll talk about it later, but it's like they wanted to springboard the Iconics, so they wanted to have Natty kind of be the fall, because at her spot in the company right now, it wouldn't hurt her. And I'm not sure how Liv got roped into it, because a loss right now would hurt her because she went on a pretty long winning streak, and then it just fell off the face of the planet. But this was more to get the Iconics over.
Did the wrong person took the pinfall.
No. But we'll talk about it later, but I know we had the why of that match.
Yeah.
And how it wasn't a long match really. So I mean, by Raw standards, but
the Iconics actually cut a good promo here.
Yeah.
I was pleasantly surprised. There was no hokiness. There was no goofiness. They were serious. They cut a good promo. I was like, wow, they can actually cut a good promo. There's another talent that cut a good promo tonight. They challenged Bayley and Sasha for the tag team title match next week. Sasha and Bayley are nowhere to be found, but we'll get back to that later. Later on in the segment, we see Natalya venting her frustrations to Liv Morgan, talking down to Liv Morgan and saying to Liv Morgan, no wonder why Ruby Riott dropped you, making her feel bad. Liv Morgan goes away. Insert Lana, like we talked about before. They're both venting out their frustrations to each other. Natalya about the loss, Lana about the divorce that she just found out about maybe an hour before. Next up, we see Christian in an interview with Charlie Caruso. Christian comes out onto the main stage in front of the screen over by the ramp. And we see Christian interview with Charlie Caruso. He says he won't be disrespected at all. And he tells Charlie in the interview that he's going to accept the one more match with Randy Orton tonight on Monday Night Raw, which we will see later. So again, the Christian Randy Orton build for the night is building throughout the show. We'll talk more about that later. But next up, we had MVP. MVP always looking to build up his brand. We have MVP confronting Apollo Crews and offering to back him up. So we haven't seen MVP talking to Apollo Crews in a few weeks on camera, but we see it tonight. Once again, Apollo turns it down and says he wants to be a fighting champion, which is pretty ironic. But he says he wants to be a fighting champion, and MVP picks up the belt, the U.S. title belt that was right next to him and Apollo, and shoves it right in Apollo's hands and be like, you know what? The only way you keep this belt is because of me. So that's what MVP says. So what did you think of this interaction?
I guess it's kind of a... Let me think of the wording here. Where Apollo was a potential client for MVP, but he never took him under his wing. It's kind of a throwback to that, and almost like a slap in the face to Apollo that MVP was trying to do. So I didn't read too much into it. I don't know if that would take it further for it, because everybody knows, MVP was the U.S. champion way back in the day. But it's just kind of a callback to whenever he was prospecting clients and everything, and Apollo was on that list, and he never ran with them. And it's like, oh, you're a champion now, cool. That's a lucrative piece to have in your portfolio, having a champion as your client. And MVP was like, oh, well, forget you too, buddy. Here you go out there. I didn't think too much of it. That was the only thought that I had about it.
So check this out. Here's the irony. Apollo says he's a fighting champion, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. So this was pretty interesting. Apollo Crews with the win tonight over Shelton Benjamin. Benjamin tries to, pull the heel move and put his foot on the ropes and trying to pin Apollo. The referee caught it and didn't count, refused to count. So the match continues. Later on in the match, Apollo Crews, who's a face, by the way, is hopefully we didn't forget that part, hooks the rope with his arm as he's pinning Shelton Benjamin to get the win. I would say that's a kind of a heel move, wouldn't you say?
That is.
When do you ever see a face really do that?
You really don't. Faces usually don't do the shenanigans and the tactics to get the cheap wins. I wouldn't say to get the win per se, because I'll touch on that here in just a little bit. They'll pull some shenanigans here and there, but not to get a full win. So I was very taken back that they let him do that.
And even the announcers were surprised.
Yeah. So that kind of a little hint right there, so that kind of threw me off. But the whole MVP thing, I don't know if they'll dial back to that and, have him rejoin or, join the stable officially, where he was just kind of being interviewed a few months ago. I don't know if they'll think about letting him join that heel stable, because it's going to take a while to get that big smile off his face and learn how to be an actual heel.
Supposedly in the Indies, he has heel experience. I've never witnessed this. I haven't seen Apollo when he was formerly known as Uha Nation. So he worked as a heel one time, as far as I know. Again, I've never seen it. I have to check it out.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, and you know what? He wasn't really quite a heel when he was working with the Titus brand. So I mean, Apollo still had that little goofy smile on his face and what have you. But we'll see what happens from there. But you know what? He survived the weekend. He kept the title.
Yeah, no kidding. That was a shocker to me.
He kept the title. I was kind of 50-50 on that. But he kept the title, and tonight he got featured again. So we will see where we go from there. Like I said, I'm not too sure if they ride with him as the U.S. champion past SummerSlam, but we'll have to see where we go from there. So we get it was breaking news, and I don't know how I skipped this, but there was a segment earlier on in the night. Right around the 9 o'clock hour or so. Drew McIntyre, R-Truth are challenged by MVP and Lashley. In fact, R-Truth is the one that put Drew McIntyre and R-Truth's title on the line, accepted the challenge from Lashley and MVP. Drew McIntyre is not that happy with R-Truth making the decision for him to put not only his 24/7 title on the line, but his WWE Championship on the line.
Yep.
And it's for winner take all, and we get a WWE title match on the first night of the Bruce Pritchard era.
Yeah, I think that plays towards R-Truth's stupidity for his character. Just kind of, oh, you want us? It's like, we'll put both titles on the line, and just kind of not even thinking about it. And Drew's like, huh? Just kind of taken aback by it and everything. But I mean, the match is made official,
but then it gets worse. R-Truth tries to make things right in the back with the officials. He tries to make it right. Comes back to Drew McIntyre, and it tells Drew McIntyre it's only his title that's going to be on the line.
Yeah. Whoops. So yeah,
Drew was not too happy.
Yeah, Drew doesn't have to be in the ring to get pinned for this now. So yeah, the match starts. I kind of like the match actually, because Drew was out there hitting hard. R-Truth got the cheap tag in, and Drew's like, "What are you doing?" It's kind of like, "Let me handle this. It's my title. Just stay out of this." And as soon as R-Truth gets in there, MVP just grabs him and gives him basically an overhead belly to belly. It looked like, So, just good action, hard hitting. I liked it. Nothing too cheesy, nothing over the top, but especially that end there, whenever he popped him with the Claymore or popped MVP with the Claymore, and he slaps R-Truth for the tag, and he's like, "Get in there," and makes him clean up the mess and get the win, and kind of fix his mistake.
Yeah, I thought this was a pretty good match. Considering for Monday night it was a little shorter, but Drew worked pretty well. It was pretty much I was pretty interested. I was invested. I mean, heck, we're getting a WWE title on Raw. When's the last time that happened? Title match.
It's been a hot minute.
And we knew the title wasn't changing here, but
Nah.
Listen, if this was under like the circumstances of like a pay-per-view, say a couple months down the road, this could have been a great way to get the title off of Drew without him taking the pin.
Yeah,
it would have been a great way. Maybe they should have held off on this idea for later on.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't get the pin. It does protect him a little where he doesn't get pinned, but just a cheap way of losing the title, that still kind of puts a negative mark on him. So
we see R-Truth. He knocks out Lashley by tripping Lashley into the steps, followed by Drew McIntyre hitting the Claymore and MVP. Then he could have just pinned MVP right there, but then he tags R-Truth back into the match, allowing him to get the win with the pinfall over MVP for R-Truth to get the last laugh. Because MVP was talking trash on R-Truth tonight and more recently. So that's how that match ends. Drew McIntyre and R-Truth stand tall with their belts. Okay, so now that we have a little bit of a clearer picture of what could be going on, what happens next with Drew? Where do we go from here? Do we continue this feud with Lashley? Do they? Does it stop? Where do we go?
That's so tough to call right now. I feel like it kind of ran its course, and I'm not invested with the feud anymore. So I would love to see some fresh blood.
That rematch came pretty quick.
It did. Yeah.
Do you think that rematch tonight was a way to put a close onto this?
Maybe. I really hope it is. But I just hope they get someone else in there. I mean, Andrade's with Garza right now. They're feuding. I just can't think of anyone fresh right now who could get in there to the WWE title picture to get to Extreme Rules, because we're 4 weeks out at this point? 5 weeks?
Yeah, we're about 4 weeks.
Yeah. So I mean, you already had this week, so you're down to 3 or 4 Raws to build something for a pay-per-view match for a title. So I don't want to keep spinning the wheels in the mud with Lashley, but do I have enough time right now to get invested with the new challenger? So it's a catch-22 at this point.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty interesting. I don't think there's any more than 4 weeks until the next pay-per-view.
No, especially to make it a believable challenger.
Yeah. Hey, listen, if any of you guys have any comments, or those who's watching, feel free to leave a comment who you think might be Drew McIntyre's next opponent after Bobby Lashley. Do they have another challenger and then revisit Bobby Lashley, or do they continue this through SummerSlam? I'm not 100% sure at this point. But anyway, moving on. We have a little bit more to talk about. We had Bayley and Sasha. They finally come out to the ring. They were MIA when Iconics were calling them out earlier. It is Bayley's birthday, so she makes everybody quite aware of that, guessing what day it is, and she yells out it's her birthday. So Bayley makes it a point to alert the fans that were there to make aware of the TV land, those that are watching, that it's her birthday. They're bragging about their win the night before, with Sasha getting that roll-up pinfall for the win. They addressed their match this Wednesday night against Shotzi Blackheart and Tegan Knox which I'm fully expecting to be a great match. Then the Iconics interrupt. They see that Sasha and Bailey in the ring, so they come back out. Sasha gets a slap in the face from, I believe it was Peyton Royce that gave the slap.
Yeah.
And Bailey then flips out and accepts their challenge. So now we get a tag team title match, not only this Wednesday, God only knows what they're going to do this Friday, but we get another tag team title match with Sasha and Bailey defending against the Iconics next Monday.
Mm-hmm.
Now, do Sasha and Bailey lose the titles to the Iconics next Monday? I think the Iconics may very well get a win here. I mean, how many times are we going to see, the Iconics? They've lost a little bit lately.
Yeah.
But they've been featured heavily, so it's believable that they can probably win.
First off, what the hell is that Karen haircut that Bailey has right now?
I think in certain angles it looks good, and certain angles I wasn't feeling it.
She's even got the steps shaved in the back of her head. Like she's like, oh look, there's a cake or even a birthday cake in the back of my head. And oh Jesus, why? Like
Bailey's doing pretty good at her heel roll, by the way.
It's starting to get a little annoying right now, and that's just a little bit of icing on that birthday cake, but I'll digress from that. Two, this was actually a good promo on both sides.
Yeah, Iconics did good tonight.
Yeah, because Sasha and Bailey were playing the whole, you want a cheap match. Why do you think you deserve the title? But the Iconics come out and,
they got to remind Sasha and Bailey about the WrestleMania 35 loss.
Not only that, but hey, basically, you didn't pin us. You rolled up Alexa and you didn't beat us technically. So so they're kind of playing that up a little bit, that they actually didn't lose for all intents and purposes, and just kind of tugging on the heartstrings a little bit, and bringing up the facts that once they lost that WrestleMania 35 match, they both had their little meltdowns. Everybody knows Sasha's was very public, and then Bailey hers wasn't as public as Sasha's. Hers was mostly like her TV character that was having the meltdowns, but just kind of, taking those big jabs right there. And then just that slap across the face to try
that was cool.
And Sasha was really caught off guard, and it was awesome. And then Bailey just emotionally snapping. It's like, all right, you're on. And that kind of triggered Sasha and gave us a little more groundwork for a Sasha Bailey feud. So I'm doing the math in my head, and if they lose the titles, that gives us enough time to build to Extreme Rules for a match.
Ooh, going. I think I know where this is going.
So, I mean, obviously it's Extreme Rules. It's not a regular wrestling match. Something could happen. Bailey walks out with the title at Extreme Rules. Sasha, it's like, hey, that wasn't a real wrestling match. It was XYZ match, whatever they come up with for it. One more match, straight up, you and me, we're doing this at SummerSlam. And that's where Bailey ends up dropping the title, and it's face Sasha versus heel Bailey.
Yeah, I mean, it would be a different dynamic than what we saw. The last couple times that we've seen Bailey go against Sasha were primarily in NXT. I think they tried to do a Sasha Bailey program a couple of years ago, but one of them were injured. I think it was Sasha. But most of the time Bailey was the one in the middle of chasing. She was the face. Sasha was the heel. So the roles would be reversed. So even though we've seen Sasha Bailey before, it would still be fresh in that aspect.
Yeah.
And Sasha and Bailey are even more experienced now. I think we have the potential of seeing a much better match, which would be great. Again, I think this has been the plan all along. As some of you guys know, SummerSlam was supposed to be in Sasha Banks' hometown, so why not give her a big match? And I think Sasha versus Bailey would be a pretty big match to have in Boston. Obviously, won't be in Boston now; it'll be at the PC Center. But it looks like they're slowly headed that way. We didn't even talk about it yesterday. They were kind of hinted at a little dissension with the interview right before they went out to the ring. So they're planting seeds.
That's the thing, though. They've been planting little seeds here and there throughout all these months, and then especially with her SmackDown Women's title defense at WrestleMania. You thought Lacey Evans was going to walk out with it at one point, and that didn't happen. Sasha helped out and got the win for her. So it was kind of okay, well, it's not there right now, and then we're doing another bit here. They're still buddies right now. Oh, here's another seed coming into Wednesday night's title defense. Will we see a little bit more of dissension this Wednesday and build that a little more? I really hope we do.
Yeah, it very well could be happening. I think we're going to see a little bit more progression on Monday for sure, especially if those titles come off. And you're right. If they do lose the titles and there's dissension there, they could do something Extreme Rules. But I think it would be a lot better if they did it on SummerSlam, or do the turn at SummerSlam and have something for the fall program, because we know notoriously fall is the worst months of WWE TV, as we've seen in the past.
Survivor Series is the worst out of the big four. Now, last year was a little different when they decided to bring in NXT. Obviously, that was probably the best Survivor Series in
a few years.
I honestly can't remember.
Yeah, but you had a lot of new faces on there, and the NXT guys were getting featured.
Oh yeah, I mean, like Roderick Strong's winning matches, and
Rhea Ripley.
Rhea Ripley's
her run. Yeah.
So I mean, it was a good change. Hopefully, they'll kind of keep that up with this, and they'll have more developed talent that comes through.
Yeah. So moving on, we had the WWE Women's Title matches. This is one of the last two segments that are left on Raw. We have Nia Jax. So early in the night, Asuka's cutting a promo and says that she's not done with this feud. That she felt like she had more of a score to settle, because last night, as we know, Nia Jax and Asuka ended in a double count out. Asuka wasn't satisfied with her win. Nia Jax was frustrated that she lost the match. So we get a WWE Women's Title rematch. Okay, Bruce Pritchard, another well booked segment. Made this show more exciting. So this is the second title match that we're seeing of the night. Mm-hmm. Great match, but Nia pushed the referee down. And as the referee was about to disqualify Nia Jax, we see the referee, John Cone, was getting ready to ring the bell. And then all of a sudden, Asuka rolls up Nia Jax from behind and gets the win with, that's right, quick count. And Nia Jax gets the loss. Asuka retains her title with the pinfall. What do you think of this segment?
About time there was a little bit extra to it here, especially with the whole referee fast count. It makes me curious which way they're going with this. I know I see Nia playing the "I was screwed" card. So was that a fair championship match? I think I should have a real shot here. So that's 100% obvious. This isn't done.
Oh, no. And you know what? With Extreme Rules looming, with it being like a pay-per-view of no disqualifications, a perfect setup for Nia Jax and Asuka. What do you think?
Oh, yeah. They'll beat the bejesus out of each other. So, I mean, whether it's whipping kendo sticks out and just bloodying each other, or, I wouldn't say a ladder match because it's not a TLC pay-per-view, but just, anything in general, whether they throw a cage match out there, it's going to be something where it's just going to be mayhem and anarchy, and those two are just going to wail on each other. I thought this was going to be a quick match at first, because Asuka tried to go after her quick and got caught hard. So I was like, well, this isn't going to go real well. But Asuka got that little roll up on the arm there and dropped her. I thought Nia was going to tap out in the first couple minutes too. So they had a little bit of suspense built in with it. And then when Asuka went for that hip attack, with Nia on the outside and Nia caught her. That was a little bit of a botch there. I felt like that Nia took way too long to figure out what she was going to do with her or what her next step was going to be. And then it would look like, well, I have her up for what's going to be a Samoan drop, but I really can't do anything with it. And Asuka, what I was talking about with Apollo, faces doing some cheeky stuff. Asuka rears back, puts Nia in the sleeper, and uses the ropes as leverage and almost gets the full 5 count, almost gets disqualified. So just little things like that. So, it had some spots there, and Asuka taking that power bomb on the outside of the ring. She hit like a ton of bricks.
And that was like the perfect way to go to commercial break too.
Yeah, that was
suspense of the match right there. Just
that was. Is she going to get up from that? Because Nia put a lot of mustard on that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean that was a good payoff at the end there to continue the feud, especially when you go to an extreme pay-per-view like this with no rules matches and whatever stipulation. So that's just more fuel that Nia is going to have for being pissed off right now, and have a bloodbath match where they just are just going to wail.
Yeah. You know what? Last night's match was better than expected. Mm-hmm. Today they had a good solid 15 minutes, and it was digging into this match started at 10:30, and it was digging into the main event segment. It was like late, almost 10:50, and the Nia Asuka program still going on. So I'm like, okay, this is going to set up something weird for the final segment, which we're going to talk about in a minute. But first, so just to remind you guys. So next week we got the women's tag team titles on the line. We got the men's tag team titles on the line. So they're already building up for a pretty decent show next week. Finally going to get a real match between Viking Raiders and the Street Profits.
About time.
Yeah. So we will see what happens there. I have a feeling there'll be shenanigans as well. Bray Wyatt's returning this Friday night to SmackDown, the Firefly Funhouse.
Yes, it's about time.
I'm excited for that. The SmackDown again, like we talked about last night on our post show. If you haven't watched, make sure you're subscribed so that you can watch that to see our thoughts about the state of the SmackDown main event picture, which isn't so good, but people being out, but Bray Wyatt will be back and probably starting that SummerSlam program eventually with Braun Strowman, I would think. So there are a couple things, and then don't forget we have the NXT Championship, Tag Team Championship on Wednesday. But so moving on, we have our main event. Christian's ready to go. He's all taped up as the match is about to start. So Christian versus Randy Orton in the unsanctioned match that they've been building throughout the night. As the match is about to start, we see Ric Flair.
Woo!
Yeah, unbelievable, man. This guy is 70 years old just about, and screwing over people left and right still, but that's exactly what happened again. As the match is about to start, Ric Flair comes in and interrupts, trying to talk Christian down to let it go, trying to talk him down to not go along and proceed with the match with Randy Orton. We knew something was going to happen. I didn't know what it was. It was.
Well, he even tried.
Even 10 minutes left on the broadcast.
Well, he even tried tugging on the heartstrings at first. He's like, "I talked to Edge. Don't do it, man. Like it's not worth it."
Yeah. So Christian says to Ric Flair that he has to do this. As soon as the bell rings, Christian's back is turned to Ric Flair. Ric Flair gives Christian the low blow. And then Randy punts Christian in the head, and Christian is now out cold. Laying in the ring. Done. Randy yells at Christian saying he didn't want to do this the way, because they go way back, yelling and saying to Christian that this is all Christian's fault. So 2 nights in a row, a legend is down. WWE commentators made you even posed the question during the night: is he going back to the Legend Killer? I don't know if you remember hearing that. So I think that this is where they're heading. So Christian's out of the picture. Edge is out of the picture until WrestleMania, probably. I mean, he could come back in Royal Rumble, but that might be a little rushed. 6 months would get you to December. So Edge ain't come back till at least December. So I'm thinking we could get another Royal Rumble appearance.
Let's say Rumble Return Part 2 or Part 3 for him.
Probably in Seattle. It'll be in Seattle, Safeco Fields. I'm hoping to go if they have it.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah. I think they are building Randy Orton to face a legend or a future legend eventually.
Yeah.
I don't know who. I mean,
who's
out there to come back? I mean, could it be? Oh God, could it be Randy Orton versus Bill Goldberg?
Oh, please God, no.
But you can't rule out the possibility.
Oh no, but dear God in heaven,
who were the available legends or soon-to-be legends? We got Undertaker, maybe.
Follow me on this. Remember on Twitter earlier this year how Randy and Rock were going back and forth, the 3-generation superstars, and then Rock is like, man, Cowboy and the High Chief didn't travel and bust their asses up and down the road. He said, I don't know if I've got it in me. And Randy tweeted back like the crying emojis about it or something like that, or the sad emojis. And they were talking about that being a WrestleMania match. So the 3rd-generation superstars facing off. So could this be a long con for Rock versus Randy?
Listen, it very well could be. I mean, we've never seen a Randy Orton versus Rock one-on-one match. I don't believe we've seen it in WrestleMania 20, Randy Orton, Ric Flair, and Batista versus Rock and Mankind. But I believe that's the closest that we've seen to Randy Orton versus Rock match. Does the Rock want to go? Like that's the question. Does he? Yeah. He got injured at the last WrestleMania, not a major one, but he got injured nonetheless. Does he want to put himself through that training and months of getting the rust off, once more?
Yeah.
It'd be a pretty intriguing match. That'd be cool. I mean, I'd be down, but
yeah.
The big question is how do we get there?
Yeah.
That's the whole.
That is definitely that is definitely a slow burn that's got to spark up. I mean, we're 9 months now from the next WrestleMania. We've got some time, so this gives Randy plenty of time to develop back into who he was as the Legend Killer. The show ran over by about a minute or two tonight.
Yeah.
And it wasn't, commentators or anything. They wanted to focus on Randy specifically. And, he's standing over Christian. Whenever he punted him, Christian was face down. He rolled him over. He kind of sat there for a second. And then he just kind of leaned over on him and used him kind of almost like a pillow to pin him, just kind of draped his arm over him. And, he's kind of just, rubbing his head, I'm sorry. Why did you have to come here? You didn't have to do this. I had to do this though, since you were here. And you notice how he started positioning his body like he knew he heard him. So he's like, anybody who knows EMT or emergency first response, if you've got a head or a neck injury, you want to keep that person as straight as possible, maintain C-spine, make sure that head's not moving. You want that body, that skeleton straight to keep a normal position. So his legs were still kind of twisted. So he's kind of grabbing him, meticulously laying him out straight and flat, but he's not touching him anymore. And he's just kind of leaning over him, It's like, and he's telling the trainers, get in there, take care of him.
Yeah, Orton's showing a little bit of sympathy, but yelling at him at the same time.
Yeah, so it's the polarizing Randy Orton, the guy who's always had the internal struggle going on, and it's the voices.
The voices in his head.
Yeah, so there are a lot of them floating at once. So it's like he's battling this demon right now, and which way does it go? And I really hope we get back to that legend killer mentality where screw everybody, and if you're in my way, I'm gonna kick your head off your shoulders.
Yeah. Hey, listen. I don't want it to be booked this way because I care about Drew McIntyre very much. I'm invested in him. I haven't been invested in anybody else since maybe Daniel Bryan.
Mm-hmm.
But a way that they could go is Randy Orton taking the title off of Drew McIntyre. Maybe sometime between SummerSlam and Survivor Series.
That'll be reign number 14 for him, or 15.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
Drew McIntyre versus Randy Orton. And then Edge comes back, wins a Royal Rumble, or wins the number one contender match at Elimination Chamber to face Randy Orton for the title. And then Edge gets that redemption story.
Oh.
And then you don't keep the title very long on
No.
Edge, but just for that redemption story payoff. I personally,
that's a long payoff, but
well, yeah, I mean, because they already told the story, but you know, when Edge comes back, it makes sense that the first person he's going to go for would be Randy Orton, especially after what he did to Christian, and the way that he lost by getting his head kicked off of his body practically.
Yeah.
They could go that route. I don't like it personally, but I think they could go that route. I mean, I kind of want Drew McIntyre to get the proper payoff of him losing the title around Survivor Series, which again I'm going to hate to see, but lose it at Survivor Series or the Royal Rumble, and then somehow win it back at WrestleMania in front of a crowd.
Yeah,
the moment that he deserved.
Oh yeah.
You could also have Randy Orton move over to SmackDown too and settle it that way too. And I think that would probably be the best way to go.
Yeah, him versus Braun would be a good program to have.
Yeah. This way you don't have to have Drew McIntyre. You know, he can get his moment. There's a lot. There's many different ways to go there. But I think we've pretty much covered everything. Pretty decent length show tonight. So for those of you that are watching or about to watch or listening, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can follow us on Twitter for all the updates right there on the screen. Deep6W at Deep6W for our Twitter page. Get all our updates from there. Make sure you subscribe to YouTube. This way you get the access to the post shows, the prediction shows, and the pay-per-views. So that's for the YouTube subscribers. So make sure you do that. We would like to thank the many fans that are watching or listening. We have listeners, quite a number of listeners from Ireland, London, Germany. Shout out to you guys. Thank you so much for listening. We have many fans already subscribed to our iTunes channel in just a few short weeks. We're 8 weeks now. We're making some good progress, and we just want to thank you guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we got a loyal backing right now, so just spread the word and share the podcast with your other Apple friends or your Google friends, whoever's got what, and just press that little button and get notified every Tuesday and Wednesday or Thursday morning that we've got a new podcast out.
Yeah, generally this show, if you miss out on it, will be available on all podcast platforms as early as tomorrow, at the latest Wednesday, and then our AEW post show will be available for you before the weekend. If you don't have the time to watch the video, make sure you subscribe to either on iTunes, Spotify, or Google Play, depending on what platform that you're using. Deep Six Pro Wrestling Podcast. You can find us easily. Cooper, final thoughts before we leave.
Yeah, good tone considering the what's the wording I'm looking for here? The sinking feeling that everybody had on Thursday when Paul was relieved of duties, they really came through tonight and gave us a little bit of a better feeling, a lot of open-endedness to the show with who's going to end up with what or where it's going to go, but it didn't fall flat on its face. So that's a good start. And if you have to take it week by week to be able to build stories and make sure the pay-per-views aren't going to be complete trash, do what you got to, because I'd rather have a good payoff and a good story be told than rush something and have it look awful. I'm curious, though, with how the writing went tonight. It didn't have the Bruce Pritchard feeling to it, so I'm curious to see how SmackDown rolls on Friday night. So when we touch base and do next Monday's show, I think we need just kind of not a full segment or anything, but kind of debrief a little bit on SmackDown and see what we thought and see if the mentality has changed since that coming to Jesus meeting last week and Vince consolidating everything. See if we can get an actual good show out of SmackDown after, that awesome championship match. Granted, that was almost half the show and the bulk of it, but let's see what happens on an actual full show, especially after this Raw, the first one. Let's see how it plays out, and we'll talk about that on Monday and follow up.
So if you guys want to see my reaction to Paul Heyman being fired, I believe that was on the very last podcast episode that we did. It was on the AEW post show last week, week 7, episode 14. And that was at the very beginning of the show. So you didn't have to watch that much of the show to watch my priceless reaction. I almost took it to a whole nother level, but I eventually brought it back down. Yeah, I'm not going to jump the gun right away. Tonight was a great show. Let's just enjoy it. Wrestling fans are going to talk about this at the water cooler tomorrow and throughout the week. It'll be all over on Twitter. I would darn the person that talks about this show as being a bad show. It certainly was not. And I had my fill. In fact, we had a lot to talk about tonight, especially if you're breaking it down segment by segment like we did. There's a lot to cover. And that's how Monday Night Raw should always give us a lot to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
After all, it is the original flagship show. But moving on, we will be back here for you on Wednesday night. This is our third night in the row that we're doing it. That we did a show. Prediction show Saturday, the post show last night, and Raw tonight. So Cooper, thank you so much for hopping on.
No, thank you. And to anybody who's ever been, especially to a WrestleMania weekend, if you have about 3 or 4 days of wrestling in a row, it gets a little tiring after a little bit, but you just got to keep trucking along, and hopefully you still have a voice after it.
I am curious to how a SummerSlam weekend and a WrestleMania weekend is going to look in our first round of and when we finally get to that part of the season with the shows that we got to do. That's pretty interesting. But,
yeah, because if you look at a WrestleMania weekend, you got SmackDown on Fridays now. You're going to have Takeover.
Yeah.
You're going to have the WrestleMania pre-show, post-show, Raw post-show. It's just going to be a massacre.
This baby,
post on post on post.
This baby is going to be coming with me to LA for sure. If there's crowds that are allowed to be doing a show with pine trees behind me, it'd be great. But anyhow, moving on, we're going to end this. We're still done. It is past midnight here, Tuesday morning. Again, Cooper, thank you for coming on. Those that watched, thank you so much. And we'll be back with you Wednesday night or Thursday with an AEW post show. And to everybody, have a good night.
Holla.